10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 412. Hey everybody, as always, before we dive into the episode, just wanted to remind you, all of these episodes are available as YouTube videos on my YouTube channel. So just go on YouTube and search for my name, Nick Maynella. It should be the latest video on the channel. So if you want to see any of these examples that I'm talking about, I always put them on screen, and there are always other visual aids for you. Also, all of the stuff that we talk about in these episodes is always available as PDFs with backing tracks, trading tracks, all kinds of good stuff over on our site, Jazz School. Sign up to support the show with a small monthly donation, and you get everything we talk about in a ready-made package so you can start practicing right away. If you want to know more about that, just click the link in the description, and it will take you over to Jazz School. You get signed up, and then you can decide whether you want to support the channel or not. All right, let's get on to the episode. Today we're going to be looking at another ubiquitous jazz standard 4, originally attributed to Miles Davis in terms of the composer credit, but I actually just recently learned that there's some controversy there. Eddie Cleanhead Vinson claims to have written this tune, and I haven't really found any more information besides that, but I haven't heard of this controversy before. If you have, and you have an opinion, let me know in the comments below. So this is another one of those tunes that I absolutely think everybody should know. It's got such a great chord progression and melody, some really cool hits on the head. And as always, I don't really present the melody in these videos. That's for you. You've got to go and learn that on your own. And as you're going to see when we sort of break down the chord progression to this, without that melody, it doesn't make a ton of sense. So I suggest that you go out and you learn that melody as sort of a first step on this tune, because the chord changes and everything we do after will make so much more sense hearing the melody. Okay, so if you're new to this series, what we do is basically we break down the chord changes, do a little of analysis on them so that you go into it understanding it better, and then I write an etude for you based off of usually kind of a specific thing in mind, so that hopefully you'll have everything you need to get used to this tune and eventually become functional over it, be able to play it in public. All right, so let's start with the analysis of the chord changes. Let's dive into that. All right, so let's go over to the chords. These are kind of interesting. So in this tune, the chords don't make all that much sense for a Roman numeral analysis, because during the A sections, they are based off of voice leading and the melody. So we want to look at it through a different lens. I'm a big fan of analyzing tunes functionally, right? And it doesn't make any sense to analyze these chords, a lot of them, with Roman numerals. So that's why the sheet looks a little bit funky this week. So first of all, let's go over the form. It's in the key of concert E flat major, and it is an A, B, A, C tune, okay? And the A sections are really the spots where it's a little more modal and a little bit more based off of the voice leading and the melody, in my humble opinion. So we see it start out with a 1 chord. So we get 2 bars of our 1 chord. But then if we get over here, we notice something weird. If we were to be doing like a Roman numeral analysis, we would say that this was like a 2-5 of flat 7. And that's kind of strange. I don't know about you, but thinking about a 2-5 of flat 7 makes my head spin a little bit. So we're going to talk about the voice leading in a second. Then we see it come to the 2 chord. But then we see another like super weird 2-5, where this would be a 2-5 of flat 3. But again, if we look at the voice leading and we think about the melody, that's where these chords are really going to start to make sense. Okay, so let's think about the melody first. So the melody over the beginning of this tune, what it does is it starts on 5 and it goes up to 7 diatonically. But then what we see is instead of going to a D natural, in the beginning of the third measure, it goes to a D flat. So that's where that melody note fits perfectly with that E flat minor 7 chord, that D flat. And then when we get to this F minor 7 chord, the melody is going from the flat 7, E flat, up to the ninth. And then we see it go to a G flat, which again fits perfectly with A flat minor 7. So I really truly believe that these chords are based more off of the sound of the melody than they are anything else. They're certainly not what we would call functional. Also, we want to look at the voice leading, because the voice leading makes a ton of sense all the way through the A section, not only with the melody, but if we were to look at these three notes, G, B flat, and D, which would be 3, 5, and 7 on an E flat major 7 chord, what we see is that the outer notes, they move down by a half step. And that makes sense because we're just going from an E flat major chord to an E flat minor 7 chord. But then we see the voice leading, obviously, from E flat minor 7 to A flat as really perfect as well. Okay. Then we see that voice lead down to F minor 7. If we look at the top two notes, they stay the same. And then the bottom note moves down a half step. And then we've got our F minor triad. We get 2 bars of that. And then check out the voice leading from F minor 7 to A flat minor 7. And then obviously that to D flat 7. And then finally that voice leads into a G minor 7 chord pretty perfectly. Okay? So take some time and really, really study this voice leading that I have on the sheet. You can even study this voice leading on a single line instrument by simply playing all the notes individually. And it makes sense, okay? So outside of a definitive analysis on some tunes, we just want to look at the voice leading / the melody, all that good stuff. All right, long-winded way of saying these chords are not really functional, but check out the voice leading, and I've got that for you on the sheet for all the people that are supporting the channel that want to study that a little bit more deeply. Okay, so then the B section, again, it's not really that functional. What we see is we see a G minor 7 chord, which is 2. And then we see a 2-5 in the key of E major. And then that leads into a 2-5 back in the home key. And then in the B section, we just simply do that again. Back to 1 for the A section again. Now what this is really is it's just this sort of chromatic motion pulling us down to the 2 chord, right? We've got our 3 chord, which is G minor 7, and then we go down chromatically to F sharp minor 7, but this just happens to be like a 2-5 based off of this 2 chord, and then we move down another half step to F minor 7. And check out the melody here too, because I think that this chromatic motion is entirely based off of the melody, okay? So that's the way that I think about the B section, is it's just this G, F sharp, F, and then we get our 5 chord. So then we come back to the A section, we do it all over again, and then the C section, the first 4 bars of the C section are exactly the same as the first 4 bars of the B section. But then we get this chromatic motion again in the very last 4 bars, but the difference is it finally resolves to the 1 chord. So we just get it twice as fast. And it makes a lot of sense orally, but just with the analysis, sometimes it gets a little bit tricky. So let's look at the entire form now. So here's the A section, moving into the B section. Chromatic motion. Sorry about my horrible piano playing. All right, now let's do the second A section into the C section. If you're sort of like hearing the melody in your head, you understand that this really makes sense. Now we get it twice as fast. Okay, so I know that analysis is a little bit different than other tunes that we've done, but I felt like it needed a little bit more explanation and to see it through a different lens than a lot of the other tunes that we've done. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so there's the chords. Now, because I talked so much about how I think the chord progression is based so much off of the melody and the voice leading, I've decided to base the etude, at least those A sections, off of displaying some of that voice leading in the form of a melody. So as you watch and listen to this one go by on the A sections, you're going to notice that I'm really playing off of that voice leading that we just went over in the analysis. So that's the idea behind this etude. Let's hear it. So hopefully now you have everything you need to get started on this tune. If you want all the materials I presented in this video, including that worksheet with the analysis and the voice leading, plus the etude in all keys, concert, bass clef, B flat, and E flat, all you have to do is choose to become a monthly supporter of this channel. It keeps things going, and all those little donations, they add up to allowing us to keep doing videos like this. You can find out all the information on that by clicking the link in the description of this video. Basically, you get signed up to my online education platform called Jazz School. That's totally free, by the way, and will always be. But then if you want to get all the materials and support us in the form of a small monthly donation, you can find all the instructions as soon as you become a member of that group. To anybody that chooses to do that, thank you so much. And to the hundreds of people that are already supporting this channel, thank you. We could not do this without you. All right, so let me know if you have any questions on any of this stuff in the comments below. I'll see you down there. As always, thanks for hanging, and we'll see you on the next one, everybody. Bye.